Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Doing business in life with a purpose, serving others and achieving success. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. We created this show for you because we want everyone to learn how to do business in life to make an impact in the world. How will you serve today, and what will the impact be when you serve that person? And I'm excited because, speaking of impact, I always start my show with this. My guest is making an impact in the book industry. He's doing some incredible things. And if you're thinking about doing your own book, stay with us because he's going to teach you a lot, tell you a lot, and give his expertise with us. Everett, welcome to the show.
Steve, thanks for having me on here. And yes, what a blast it is to help people have impact. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you.
you having me on.
Well, let's talk about how do you serve your clients? They want to write a book. You're a publisher. How do you do that?
Yeah, so we typically are working with speakers, coaches, consultants, business owners, medical professionals, executives of nonprofits, people who understand what a book can do for their business, the authority it gives, the exposure it gives. And it is a joy because so many people want to be authors. They think, oh, someday I'll write a book. And they may tell themselves that forever. Well, we make that happen, right? We help them go to the finish line so that they actually have a book out on Amazon that they can use, and we make our authors Amazon #1 best-selling authors in the process. Um, and people pour their hearts into their manuscripts, right? They pour their message, their life experiences, the wisdom that they want to pass on to others. They put it in their books. And gosh darn it, there's not a better mechanism to use to pass on that information than a book. And so it's my joy because we get to do that every day.
Yeah.
Every day we get to make that happen.
Yeah, and you're telling somebody's story, which is what a way to serve people. But we talked about this in the green room, so I want to bring it up. The book, everybody says, I want to write a book and make hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's not really the case, is it?
Yeah, I mean, the likelihood of somebody scoring in a big time through royalties, through book sales, is minuscule. The big publishing companies, they only roll the dice on a handful of significant projects per year, and they don't even roll the dice. The only ones they take on typically are the ones people who have huge lists, huge, sales track records and things like that. We joke around that it's the traditional publishing are like banks, right? The bank's happy to loan you money if you don't need it, and the traditional publishing will take a chance on you if there's no chance to be taken, right?
Right, right.
Um, but the great thing is that that's not the only measurement of success for a book. In fact, for most of my clients, they measure their success by new clients that they've attracted through the book, through new opportunities and relationships, access to a level of clientele that they would have never been able to access if they didn't have the expert status of being an author. So most of our clients, they're measuring their ROI 4 or 5 digits at a time rather than 1 digit at a time through a book sale.
I love the digits. That's so easily said. And it's interesting with the book, you becoming a thought leader, like an expert in your field with the book, right?
Absolutely. There's this deal that so many people want to be authors, but so few ever accomplish it. So you're truly breathing rare air. You are not a member of the 1%. You are a member of a fraction of the 1%. Especially if the book has been published and you've become a best-selling author in the process. That is rare air.
Yeah.
And and there's nothing like a book to communicate your message anyway. Think about like when people read your book, they are they're spending hours with you, with you speaking directly into their brain,
Yeah.
right? That's from the words through the eyeballs into the brain. We talk about how a book is like an influential whisperer. and how, what else can do that, right? What else can you create for your business or your brand that can have that kind of impact?
Interesting. Your podcasting and books are following the same line because you mentioned new clients, ops. I'm not going to be Joe Rogan and make 100 million, and that's not even my goal. But I want to get a book to add to my podcast so I can see the podcast host having that bridge of why not have a book, by the way, that gives you even more of a thought leader of what your podcast is.
Well, and Steve, you're tapping into the, cutting edge media. Audio is going through the roof.
Um,
Streaming audio, as an industry is skyrocketing. Audiobooks, that's the fastest growing segment in the book industry is
mhm.
audiobooks are growing double digits year after year. And here you are taking advantage of that streaming audio. Heck, you've got what Spotify's doing, right? Spotify's doing podcasting now and audiobooks. They've entered that market. Um, I think you tapped into the right place. And I chuckle a little bit because I remember back in 2008, it was like, oh, the big thing is podcasts. The big thing is podcasts. And then a few years later, it wasn't the big thing, and now it has come back and it is here to stay. So you're doing the right thing.
I appreciate that, Everett. And what comes to my thought too is when I talked about podcast, oh, there's millions of podcasts. Well, the same thing with you, Everett. There's hundreds of millions of books written.
Mhm. Yeah,
I'm not going to write a book. There's a million other books. Why would somebody write a book then?
yeah. I mean, and the answer is this: it's like it's how you're going to use it. What's your use pattern for the book? If you are in business, you have a built-in market for the book that is your clients and your prospects. And if that book moves prospects to become clients at a higher rate than they would otherwise, or if it shortens your sales cycle, or if it gives you access to a higher level clientele. Um, Steve, I was on a flight coming back into town several years ago, and this guy was sitting next to me, and we struck up a conversation. We didn't know each other from Adam, but it turned out we both were from the same hometown. And he used to run a very high-end bakery. He had a high-end bakery business. And this guy knew every mover and shaker in town. Okay. He'd since sold his business and everything like that, but he networked with all the old money in town. And he asked me what I do. And I said, well, I'm a number one best-selling author. And he stopped me right there. And he's like, wait, what? And started this conversation. He said, I've never sat down with another author. And I'm like, really? All the people you've rubbed shoulders with, all of that? And he's like, no. And then I started realizing it's like, here's a guy, how many doctors has he met in his life? How many attorneys has he met in his life? How many accountants, whatever? How many of all these other things has he met in his life? But somehow not an author, not a published author or a best-selling author. So it just shows that rarity, and that opens a relationship that you just, how else do you do that?
Yeah, that's a great story and tells you that there's pockets there for you.
Yeah.
And again, don't go for the moon. Just go across the street with your book, and everything will be good.
Yeah.
Speakers, talk about speakers and books. What's the power of a book with a speaker?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of funny. I went to the National Speakers Association conference for the first time 4 or 5 years ago. And it's kind of funny there because in the speaking environment, you either have a book or you're working on a book. You are not a speaker if you do not have a book or you're not working on a book. And in fact, if you are reaching out to do speaking, you'll almost always get this question. Okay, so what's your book? Yeah, if you don't have one, you need one. You've got to have one. And so for a lot of our clients, they are entering the speaking field or they've been speaking and they know they need this as an additional point of credibility. And of course, a backer room sales item,
Yeah.
and something that they can use there. So yeah, a lot of our clients are speakers and coaches and consultants and others.
Yeah. And that's where I went with it. And you read my wavelength because I think a book too is your business card. It's somebody takes that home, sits on the coffee table, Where'd you get that? Oh, Steve Ramona wrote a book on XYZ, right? It's a great book.
Yeah, and
Great way to promote.
yeah, and Steve, it's crazy. I have a chapter in one of my books about the power of the unread book. Because even if that book is never opened, it sits there and continually screams your credibility in that subject area, unlike anything else. And the funny thing is nowadays a book with print on demand technology, you can put a book in somebody's hands for a few dollars. And you think about it, no one's going to throw it away. That we're allergic to throwing these things away.
Yeah.
Um, and you think about how much money people spend on a mug or a branded calculator or whatever. I guess they don't do branded calculators much anymore now that they're on our phones. But
We're a little older. They used to do
well, we'll stick
that.
with the branded mug,
Yeah.
right? People spend all this money on branded stuff, and and A, it gets thrown away, and B, it doesn't speak to your credibility.
Yep. Yeah, breaks, you
Where
drop it, it's gone, no good. Book doesn't break.
right? Yeah.
I just thought
It's
about that.
it's not the influential whisperer, right?
No, no. And we're
That a
not saying
book
swag's
is.
bad, but it's just comparing a
No,
book to swag.
it has its place,
Yes.
but there's nothing like a book. Every time I have a conversation with someone, they get a copy of my book.
Yeah.
Uh, in fact, recently I decided I'm going to send always two copies, and the second copy is signed, and it says, "Hey, Steve Ramona thought enough of you to pass this book along to you." And so that every conversation is two introductions. It's two people receiving my book, and I'm just going to do that, and it's been very effective.
You know, Everett, that's $1 million tip. It's so simple, but you give it to the best friend of Warren Buffett you don't know, and Warren Buffett, right?
Absolutely, because it's that it there. Yes,
And that's absolutely brilliant. Audience, don't forget that. Listen to this, pick that up. I'll put it in the notes. Well, you have an interesting question here, and I love the question. How does your company serve society? Not a lot of people ask that,
yeah.
but how you help in society?
Yeah, so I think we're in a pretty unique role there because a lot of people have messages and stories that they would like to share with the world, and no traditional publishing company is going to take them on, right? Either because of the nature of their story or content doesn't fit with that particular publisher's brand, or more often than not, simply because that person doesn't have, 75,000 followers, on social media. And and those are messages that need to get to the world. The truth is that traditional publishing function, we talk about the red light of traditional publishing because they have to put the stop on. They have to say no, 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 no. I mean, do you remember that book Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance?
Oh my God, yes.
Remember that book? So that guy was rejected by traditional publishing 121 times. Okay, 121 times. So I think there's some people in the world who would say, "Hey, I'm really glad we have that message, that came out." I mean, Harry Potter, right? They told her, traditional publishers said, "Hey, it doesn't have a future. Don't quit your day job," and that happens all the time. All the time. So, so I see that we really fulfill a role of helping people get their messages out to the world that otherwise wouldn't. They just nobody would pick them up and nobody would take it and run with it.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
lesson I want the audience to hear too, a guy tried 121 times. He never gave up. That's a hell of a lesson.
Absolutely. The other thing that we do that serves our market uniquely is we set up everything in accounts our clients own. So we don't own the books. The author owns the book. The author owns the intellectual property. They have control over how to use that in the future. They're not sacrificing any control or rights or options, which happens very frequently in a traditional publishing contract. Our clients get their books at cost. So they're usually paying $3 for their own copies of the book and do whatever they want with them. And all royalties flow directly to them. So now, obviously, you're like, well, how do you make money? Well, we take a fee for service. We take a fee for what we do. And at the end of the day, our client owns everything, and that also fulfills a role in the market.
Yeah, I like that. It's like a tax account. I pay my tax accountant XYZ dollars. They're going to do my taxes for me, similar to what you do. You're going to set up all the publishing
Yeah,
and
because you
everything.
probably don't want your accountant taking a percentage of your
Of your
right.
refund.
Yeah, yeah. You probably don't
Good
want them
point.
working on a percentage basis of your income. And of course that's
Uh,
what traditional publishing does, right?
yeah,
Except they just pay you what's left over, right? They take
yeah,
the money first and
yeah.
okay, we understand.
Well, that's a great point. I have a question I've always wanted to ask. I never asked the publisher yet. So we get hardback, paperback, Kindle, Audible. Should an author do all of those? Is it
Yes.
customized to the? Okay, so do
Yeah,
them all.
absolutely. And it doesn't mean you have to do all of them, but you should do at least most of them.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, when you go visit Amazon and you look at a book on Amazon, if it's available only in ebook, is it a real book?
Mm,
It's not. And if you look at it and it's only available in paperback, is it a real book? Yeah, probably not. But if it's available in paperback and Kindle, that's a real book. And then multiply that when you add a hardcover or audio. And hardcover is not right for everybody. That's fine, but you do want a physical and an ebook and ultimately, maybe not right away, but ultimately an audiobook as well.
and the cost isn't going to be, and what I'm hearing from you, it's not a dramatic cost to go, I'm going to save money, just do a paperback at Kindle. If you add the hardback and Audible, you're not adding too much to it.
Yeah, right. Because you've already done a lot of heavy lifting,
Okay.
right, with the paperback and the Kindle. And so, like, honestly, we had if someone wants a hardcover option, I think we charge like $700 for them to add a hardcover. And that's a one-time
Mhm.
fee. And now that hardcover is available,
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. They're making $10 a book. That's $70. Yeah. That's only $70 to cover your. Oh, okay. Very cool. I like that. I'm kind of getting into the numbers there. I usually do that, but you got me excited about all this. I'm learning a lot about books. Hope the audience is too, and I think they are.
Well, and here's the deal, and I appreciate it, the nature of your podcast because it's talking about servants, people who are serving. And I think we in business can serve our clients in so many different ways. Sometimes it's serving them by education. Uh, Hopefully it's always serving them by integrity, right? Doing what we say, saying what we do, that. Or it's serving them by setting really clear expectations and then meeting or exceeding those
Yeah.
expectations. That is also servanthood in business. I picked up this phrase a couple years ago. I don't know where I got it, need to find where I got it, but clarity is kindness. And
Mm.
if we can be clear in what we offer, clear in how we deliver it, clear in what the client receives, then we are being kind. And it just that serves all of us, right? Makes us all have an easier
Yeah.
time of things.
You
So
got to
that's
find out
just
who wrote
nature.
that. So clarity is kindness. Because I'm
Yeah,
going to start using it too. We don't want to get, what's the word? I forget the word, what they call that, but we're not going to say that.
yeah.
Because I don't know. And here's my comment. What I love what you're doing and what you're sharing with us today, because audience, think about this. People go, how can I serve? Well, this is a publisher serving. Who would have thought a publisher is going to be a servant? They can be. And Everett, you're doing that. That's why I'm excited to have you on the show. But I'm more excited about this question, and I've been waiting for the answer. Why is The Lord of the Rings a great example of a unique power of books?
Oh my gosh. How is it not? So, for anyone who's just listening to the audio of this, behind me is a suit of armor and the very first book I ever read, by the way, was Ivanhoe, which is about knights and damsels in distress and
Mm-hmm.
everything. But shortly thereafter, The Hobbit. I read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and it is full of examples of servant leadership. Right? You think about Gandalf, and if you haven't read Lord of the Rings or seen the movies, I'm sorry, we're nerding out a little bit, but please bear with
Keep
us.
nerding.
At this point, most people have seen it or read it
Yeah.
anyway. But Gandalf is a servant leader. I mean, he literally sacrifices himself, and he leads not by pushing and ordering and being domineering, but by consulting with people and helping them to discover who they are, right? Discover the strength of themselves.
Yeah.
And you think at the end of the movie, you're right, you've got Frodo, who is the most unlikely hero because he's not big and strong or anything like that. And yet he's serving really all of humanity by enduring the torture of carrying the ring and to then destroy it. I mean, there's so many examples of servant leadership in that book. And man, sorry, you got me going.
Oh, I'm blown away because you are. I love those. So I'm a big fan. I just watched the Hobbit. Probably 4 or 5 weeks popped up on my screen. I had to DVR it and go back to it because I didn't want to watch half of it. They're long movies, but
Well, I know they made three out of that one. I don't know about that choice, but that's okay.
yeah, they did it. They made their money and they move on. So,
Yeah, that's right.
and we're talking about serving, and I'm glad you are, and glad I'm so happy what you do with your business. But when you see a servant leader, what characteristics do you see from that servant leader that says that person's a servant leader?
I think it's the combination of clarity and humility. I think that they have
Mm,
clarity over their mission, over what their goal is, what their purpose is, and then the humility to bring people along who maybe don't have that same level of clarity, because you know people aren't always going to see things exactly the way you see, and and trying to bring them on in a humble way. I was just listening to, I'm listening right now to the audiobook Good to Great, and they talk about the level 5 leaders that are in there, the good, what they call good to great companies, and that is a function that almost every CEO of those companies shared was a clarity combined with humility.
yeah, I got to get that book. Thanks for reminding me because you're the second person this week to mention it. When you hit multiple times, you know it's a good book. And that, see, here's the thing about books. I'm excited what you do, and I'm going to work with you in the future. I'm excited to partner up with you. Is we're always talking about books. You know, an athlete. Hey, you know what? Sylvester Stallone came out one night. He's an actor. Came out with a book. Well, I just listened to a podcast with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He just came out with that new book, and I forget the name of it.
Yeah.
It's an amazing
Books are
book.
books are very much part of our I don't know what the proper word is, our psyche, as a
Hmm.
society. It was funny, Steve. I was at a conference several years ago, and it was for Kajabi, a great tool people
Hmm.
use for their sales funnels and things. And this guy asked me what I do, and I said, "Well, we publish books." And he said, "Books? Like, is it this question mark in his face? Books?" And he's like, and in his mind, we're in the age of YouTube influencers and stuff like that, which by the way has changed, right? Because now you're seeing it's a lot of it's TikTok and stuff like that. But the truth is, books have not left our psyche. I think well, I mean, they're selling more books than ever. Like book sales continue to skyrocket. Um, and now you combine them with audio. This has not left us. Just like they thought, it was funny when ebooks came out, Kindle came out, they went, "Oh, print is dead." Well, it's not. Print
Yeah.
is bigger than ever. Um, but yeah, you're right. It is just still part of us.
And
Still part of us.
we go on for an hour, right out of time. I
Yeah.
read the book The Daily Stoic by Ryan
Ah,
Holiday. Now,
yeah.
those are guys that were reading books thousands of years ago. Of course, they weren't the books that we have now, right? So it
It
leads to
this has been the preferred medium for millennia. Right? It has been for millennia. Um, I'm like this. If it works for God, it works for me. Like
amen.
if books were good enough for God, it's good for me too.
Probably the best book in the world, too.
Yeah,
Do a little Bible. Real quick
absolutely.
question I get asked a lot, and you're an expert in books. People go, should I listen to a book, read a book, or both?
Yeah, gosh, it was so funny. In fact, right now I'm reading another book, Alex Hermosi's book, $100 Million Offers. And in the beginning of it, he says, you should listen to this and read it at the same time. I have to say, if you can make it happen, that's
I
superior.
do.
That is superior. The reality of it is most of
Yeah.
us don't carve that kind of time out to do that. But if you're going to sit down and read, you might as well listen to it at the same time. But, do we listen to audiobooks in the car or at the gym or
Yeah.
whatever, where we're not going to sit down and read it. So, yeah, but both, if you can pull it off. Sure.
One
Absolutely.
of the best answers I've heard. You get the number one check. Well, Everett, people are now fired up about books like I am right now. How can they get a hold of you and ask you more questions or talk to you more?
Yeah, thank you so much. You can discover our website. It's at ignitepress.us, ignitepress.us. And if you are a business owner, a coach, consultant, director of a nonprofit, speaker, etc., and you want to talk about your book and your idea for a book, whether it's written, whether it's just an idea in your head, or you've already written it, or even if you've already published it, there are things that we can do to help, and you can schedule a consultation with us right there at ignitepress.us.
Perfect. If you mention Lord of the Rings, we'll figure out something for you.
That's right. Mention Lord of the Rings, please. I'll find some Lord of the Rings tchotchke to send Steve to as a memento of that.
Amen. I'll take it with open arms.
Yeah. Also, hey, let me not forget to plug you and your podcast. So
I'll take it.
I recently watched the episode you did with oh gosh, where it is
Joe Peachy.
Joe Peachy, and I just want to encourage people to go listen to that episode as well. That was a kick. That guy was a hoot.
He's a ball of fire, my friend. Like you, he's a lot of energy.
Oh my gosh, that guy was cracking me up. So also want to encourage people to check that out.
God bless. Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. Listen to this a number of times in the car workout. Learn more about books. Reach out to Everett when you get a chance. Don't forget my TV show. Together We Serve every Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. I don't like the Pacific Eastern stuff. Messes me up all the time, but that's okay. Also, too, write a review. Leave a comment on YouTube. If you want to go through me, leave a comment. I'll reach out to Everett and connect you guys, whoever it may be. And we will see you all on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart.